She leaned in to kiss me, her lips soft, almost gentle, as though nothing had happened at all. I held her eyes a moment longer than usual, feeling the weight of what I was about to say settle in my chest. My name is Daniel, and for the last 5 years, I trusted Sarah without question. She was my wife, my partner, the person I shared every dream, every plan, every secret with, until recently. That trust had felt solid, unbreakable. At least, that's what I told myself. But then came the subtle changes. Quiet excuses, late nights, hushed conversations, and finally, the proof I had never wanted to find. It started small. Her phone was suddenly always face down. Calls ended the moment I stepped into the room. Snippets of conversation she pretended didn't exist. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I'd become distant. Maybe I'd missed something important. Then one evening, everything became impossible to ignore. I found the messages. Her and someone named Jason. The kind of words that make your heart sink and your pulse race all at once. I read them once, twice, 3 times, hoping context would change the meaning. It didn't. It was exactly what it looked like, a betrayal. That night, I didn't confront her. I waited. I watched. I planned. I've always believed that if you stay patient long enough, the truth reveals itself through people's actions, not their words. Sarah kept acting normal, smiling, hugging me, playing the part of the devoted wife. But I already knew. I had followed the trail, gathered the signs, and uncovered everything I needed to know about her affair. And then I did what I knew had to be done. I made sure Jason paid for every boundary he crossed, every lie he fed her. I won't share the specifics, but I'll say this. There was no room for confusion about the consequences. The next day, she pretended everything was the same. Dinner was easy, her laughter light, and that evening, she leaned in to kiss me again, expecting affection or maybe forgiveness. Instead, I placed my hands on her shoulders, looked her directly in the eyes, and whispered a sentence that would shift everything. I know about your lover, and he's already paid for it. Her eyes widened immediately. Shock, fear, denial, all of it flickered across her face in seconds. I kept my calm, letting the silence expand between us, forcing her to absorb what I had just revealed. In that moment, she understood she had misjudged me. The woman who whispered my name in the dark now stood in front of the man who had seen every truth she tried to hide and acted in ways she never saw coming. Her lips trembled, her breath hitched, and for the first time in years, she looked utterly powerless. And I felt that strange mix of sorrow and vindication that only deep betrayal can bring. After those words left my mouth, Sarah froze, hands suspended midair, as if she no longer remembered how to move. I didn't rush her, didn't yell, didn't demand excuses. I simply held her gaze and let the truth settle like a stone between us. My mind drifted back over the past few months, piecing together every subtle warning sign I had foolishly dismissed. It all began quietly, or so I thought. Late nights she chalked up to meetings. Girls' nights that never aligned when I checked. A barely there tension in her voice when I asked simple questions. I trusted her because love had conditioned me to, but trust is fragile. Once it cracks, the fracture spreads through everything you built. One night stood out clearly. She kissed me goodnight, whispering promises of love. It sounded sincere, felt warm, but something inside me rang with alarm. A silent warning I could no longer ignore. My careful, quiet investigation uncovered everything. Jason wasn't a fleeting distraction. He was deliberate, calculated, and Sarah's role was undeniable. Every time she thought I wasn't looking, she revealed who she really was. Through messages, small lies, and attempts to hide guilt that only made it more obvious. Now, standing in the living room, watching her struggle for words, I realized everything had shifted. I wasn't acting from anger anymore. I was controlled, focused, in command. My patience, my silence, my watchfulness, all of it had tightened around her until she had nowhere left to hide. Do you understand what I'm telling you? I asked quietly, voice steady. She nodded, eyes downcast, a wordless admission that her deceit was no longer something she could deny. I didn't need explanations. The truth was already laid bare. She had crossed a line, and the man who had loved her without limits had seen everything she tried to conceal. And now justice, my version of it, was already done. Jason had faced the consequences, and Sarah was left to face her own. The room felt heavy, suffocating with unspoken truth. But I didn't crave anger. I didn't want chaos. What satisfied me was clarity, understanding that sometimes the strongest response isn't confrontation, but patience, observation, letting the truth expose itself. That night, Sarah would never look at me the same again, and for the first time in months, I felt something I had been missing, complete control over my own life. The next few days were tense. Sarah moved around the house cautiously, every action careful, every glance measured. Once confident and bold, she now carried the weight of what she had done. I continued my routine with quiet steadiness, letting her fully realize the shift between us. No shouting, no scenes, just the calm authority of someone who knows the entire truth and has already acted on it. One evening, she finally tried to speak, her voice trembling. "Daniel, I can explain." I shook my head before she could continue, letting the silence swallow her excuses. There was nothing left to explain. The texts, the lies, the betrayal, they spoke louder than anything she could offer. Her lips quivered, her hands shook. She knew the consequences were already in motion. Jason had paid his price, and now she faced hers. I thought back to our early years, our laughter, our late-night talks, the endless kisses, the future we shaped together. Those memories clashed painfully with the present. The woman who was once my world was now someone I couldn't fully trust. But I hadn't acted out of bitterness. I acted with purpose, precision, and clarity. Later that night, she tried again to lean close, as if testing the boundaries. I held her gently, and my voice remained soft, controlled. "I know everything, and it's already been dealt with." Tears filled her eyes, fear, regret, recognition. She finally understood the full weight of her actions. The truth always surfaces, no matter how deeply someone tries to bury it. I didn't gloat. I didn't demand apologies. I simply let her see the resolve of a man who refused to be broken by lies. In the end, our relationship didn't collapse in a storm of screaming or accusations. It ended in the quiet acceptance of truth. She finally understood that I had waited, watched, and let justice unfold in its own time. And I realized something just as important. Even in betrayal, clarity can be freeing. I had loved, I had trusted, and when the truth came out, I acted wisely. And that, above revenge, above anger, gave me peace. It gave me freedom.